Oh my God, you got it already? You're not gonna believe this. Yeah, your boy just dropped out.
Here is your challenge for week number 2. In week 1, you identified 3 types of ideal prospects that you will be targeting as a result of COVID and some of the doors that have been opened. In week number 2, I want you to identify those prospects. I want you to begin creating your pipeline. You need to use whatever means you have access to, public domain. You don't have to pay for anything. And I need you to begin to build your pipeline. Now, I have tons of resources on Killing Commercial on the YouTube channel. I have them in the blog. They're in the Power Producers podcast. And also in my book, The Extra 2 Minutes. If you familiarize yourself with that information, you will be able to do very well going through this challenge. Each one of you needs to plan on writing $150,000 in new business revenue in these vertical markets. Good luck to each and every one of you. And until next week, it's kill or be killed.
You get points, man. You're the first person. Actually, you're not the first person to ask me a question. Annabelle did last week, but
okay.
I never said I was off limits.
Well, you're a scary guy, so.
I'll just rip you out. I'll rip your head off. What can I say? But no, man, good job on your video and stuff. I haven't watched the whole thing. I watched the first part, and you're dead on the right track for where you need to be thinking. So
cool.
As far as that stuff goes,
that's reassuring. So for Protege purposes, do you want me to do my published video? Do you want me to stick with those 3, or do you want me to add in, I've identified that in order for me to reach my goals, I need to expand?
You can just include it. I would rather see you recognize that and try and course correct than just try and force your way through it with not having enough the whole time, right?
Okay.
So that's that part. The other thing I'm going to tell you, and I'll post this in the group too, because I got to be careful when I do interact with everybody. I want to make sure everybody has benefit to the conversation. I never said this had to be based solely, or even any part of it had to be based on property and casualty.
Okay.
That never came out of my mouth.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, now I've got too many ideas. I'm going to have to write some stuff down. So, okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll work off of what I've already done and continue to build off of that. So.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Cool. Thanks for your time.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon, man. Take care.
Right. Yep. See ya.
Here, how can I help you?
Is there kind of a sweet spot to look for? I know you mentioned for your group, it's 25,000, 50,000 revenue. That's kind of what y'all go after.
Right.
But building up to that, is there something that you would recommend? Is there kind of an area, considering I'm not going to get in the door on every single one of them, to where I can still meet that level?
Yeah. I mean, that's the cool part about what we do. It's all numbers based, right? So
right.
At the end of the day, if you're going to go after smaller accounts, you just need to write more. So everything's a mathematical computation, in my mind. We take and we, if you're going to do 150,000 in revenue, you need to determine how many, what the average size account is that you're going to go after. If you tell me it's going to be $10,000, then you need to write 15 of them. Okay. Well, if I need to write 15 of them, how many people do I have to present to in order to close 15? How many people do I have to call on to get to meet with on an initial meeting to allow me to present to enough to get 15? How many people do I have to cold call on, and then work your way back? That's the easiest way to do it.
Okay. Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, I remember listening to that. One of the podcasts, kind of reverse engineer it and work your way back.
That's the easiest way to do it, man. Okay. So, figure out what you're and listen, I can't tell you guys enough. Do not overthink this. Do it for yourself. You know, the beauty of what we're doing right now is, yes, you're competing, but at the same time, you're actually building out something you should be able to use going forward in your agency.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You're building a bona fide pipeline with real prospects. You're going to be able to, you know, base your activity for the next year off of this. So what I wanted to talk about today is kind of what your experience has been like so far. How has the coaching been, and what can I do to help you?
The experience has been eye-opening, I would say.
Why do you say that?
Because I was doing things before, not realizing how it played a part in the success or failure of the total process.
What would be an example of that?
Well, I think we've all compiled lists or done research on companies or opportunities for our business, but not really having a game plan as to why. So like in the first chapter, we had to explain why we were going after a certain market segment and why we thought that would help get us to our goal. And at that time, we didn't know that the goal was going to be to write 150,000 revenue, but we knew that it was supposed to be something that we felt we could be successful at. So now that we're having to explain everything, and it's helping me, because I was just talking to a staff member about the same thing. I'm giving her stuff and I'm like, you know, thinking about it, backing into everything, almost like you talk about in your book. If you know, like, and you kind of give us crumbs and say like, hey, or clues and say, hey, 2 is going to build on 1 and 3 is going to build on 2. So it doesn't do me any good, like what we were talking about on our Zooming the other night, to build this robust marketing list that I really haven't filtered to be successful, because the end goal is 150,000 of revenue, not how many people can I get on the list and how many people can I call.
Right. What do you need from me?
Yeah, so far so good. You might be aware I'm only going after one specific vertical, which is the health tech industry, and focusing specifically on cyber insurance as well as tech E&O. So that's basically what I'm going full tilt. And the reason why I did that was basically I wanted to build a new vertical in the agency. I didn't want to have 3 new verticals right out of the gate. It just way too much to chew at one time. So as you're aware, my background in cyber is pretty good. So I felt like this was an easy transition into that. So the coach has been awesome. Bradley, Josh, like I said the other day, Josh was spitting fire for like a half hour straight and gave us a lot of good insight, and just been following up on some of your posts you've been doing on social media, especially with the content, and not really focusing on COVID, but more so what people are actually interested in researching and stuff like that. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. So I'm building out, I got about 25 prospects in my CRM. They have over $20 million of revenue in each organization. That's the type of business I'm going after, and leading with the dark web scans, cyber risk assessment, stuff like that, exploiting, you know, obviously most of these organizations have the coverages now, but trying to make the current broker look like they didn't do a great job or something like that. That's how I'm going to get my foot in the door.
I would probably scale down the size of what you're looking for to get more opportunities in. With 25, that's going to be tough, just in my experience.
I think I need to do a better job qualifying the prospects. I was shooting at some bigger organizations that were like upwards of $1 billion in revenue. And, you know, that's, I think, a waste of time. But what I'm going to do is I'm working with, I got to reach out to Jared, obviously, on the cyber side, but probably Corvus or one of the carriers. They allow you just to submit the website, the revenues. So I'm going to have a VA do that on a couple hundred prospects. I know you said scale it down, but I'd rather get a bigger funnel in the pipeline.
You need to.
What's that?
You need to. When I'm saying scale it down, I'm saying scale down the size of the account.
Got it.
So that you have a higher number that you can get in front of.
Yeah.
Right. See, what my target market this is not necessarily living centers. It's senior home care companies who go to the home and provide in-home care, not necessarily. Mine's focused towards agent in place at their home, not necessarily.
And there's $125,000 accounts out there, a lot of them.
Yes.
Huh, shit.
Wow.
My only question was like, how far do I take my pipeline development? I mean, should I just, hey, a quick video of like, here's what I did to find this pipeline, and then maybe just leave it at that? Because I don't want to go overboard. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like I've been focusing on what he wants. I don't feel like I've been trying to. I've tried to been focused on what's going to make it happen, right? What's going to work.
Yeah.
Did you hear what we said?
Yeah. Just don't. I mean, yes. Yeah. Basically.
You're thinking right, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. You're on the right track.
You give a
Don't
shit
think
about
about what David would want you to do.
Right.
Do what's going to make you successful.
Yeah, I started working on the list. I was going to clean it up. I've got that other master list that I pulled off of David's website month ago, 2 months ago, or whatever.
Okay.
I was looking at it, and so I put it together. There's some lists, with 80, 90, whatever. The area is really here in Albuquerque. It's really, it's a weird market. It's not like other areas like Tampa, but I know other guys are similar too. They're in a small marketplace or whatever the case is. So, the challenge he was looking at, we want to boost it up or beef it up to 150,000 in revenue the first year, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
My thought process was, I don't know if it bumps me out, but looking at everything I was targeting was in New Mexico. It's a big state. It's spread out, but with 1.2 million people. But I don't know if I'll be able to hit that revenue amount based on those three categories that I have, and then the information I was able to pull offline.
Okay.
So I guess since I've already submitted the information, my question is, since I already submitted what my target was, and I kind of said that I would, the first year, couple of years or whatever, that I would focus on the states. I projected X amount of accounts versus projected revenue.
Sure.
Would it be okay to tweak it now and maybe branch out my search to maybe target El Paso too, since it's right there at the border of New Mexico, to kind of give me more leads, I guess? Would that be okay?
You could do that. You could definitely do that. My recommendation on that is, first and foremost, because David wants this to be something that you actually use in your agency, in your business, to write and get new clients. Would you be okay doing that? Would you want to have clients in El Paso or in other states? Is that something that you would want to do, or is something that the agency you work for, would they allow it? That's the first question.
Yeah, so they would allow it for sure.
All right. Well, I cheated on you guys a little bit. I called Carruthers this morning.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw that, but
that's all right.
My whole concern, he answered most of it, but I just want to, I guess, approve a few things with you guys first.
Sure.
My concern was, this is my business plan for 2021, regardless of if I'm on the Protege at the end of the 7 weeks or not.
That's the way you should be looking at it.
So my concern was the three industries that I picked. There's a reason why I haven't gone after them in the past.
Okay.
I'm in a fairly small geographical area, so I can't really pick and choose a ton of markets to go after. I can get pretty narrow in a few specific industries, but the reason I hadn't used those was because I don't really have the horses as far as carriers go for some of them.
Okay.
But after talking to Carruthers, he's saying we can add in, our business plan's not done. So just use that to my advantage in my video, saying, hey, I don't think these industries are going to get me to my 150K, and here's what I'm going to add into it.
Okay.
I got it.
Maybe I should expand my three targets that I did into dealerships in general, not just power sports and boat dealers, but dealerships in general.
Yep.
I'm not just going after PNC. I'm hitting benefits, get in there with work comp.
Yep.
And then I add in Can
I just tell you something, Derek? Derek, I'm trying to give you some feedback, dude.
Yep.
Every time I do cold calling, they won't let me through. 90-some% of the time, they say, I thought you were the guy with life and health. Sorry, Cass. Say to them, dude, I think it's terrible. I wouldn't be calling with life and health and benefit. I would be calling
I've had the
workers'
opposite.
comp.
I've had the opposite.
Oh, dude.
How much they spend on work comp, Cass?
A shitload.
A quarter of what they spend on healthcare.
I'm just telling you, when I do the cold calling, I can't get them to call me back until I tell them I'm there to help them with their workers' comp. And they always say, oh, man, I thought you were the life and health dude. You life and health dudes are some cold calling machines. Cause I'm telling you, motherfuckers just have to, cause I call in, they're like, dude, no one ever calls me about my workers' comp. So just FYI.
So how have you thought about prospecting and building a list?
So, well, not honestly, I don't do prospecting. I already have a pipeline. 85% of my clientele is in the construction industry, and a lot of my business comes from my clients' referrals. And I have partnerships. I have partnerships with accountants. I have partnerships with banks. I have partnerships with payroll companies because that's my background. So a lot of those relationships that I had at ADP, I brought them into my agency.
That's awesome.
I was thinking maybe using Reference USA.
Yep.
So
go ahead.
What would you recommend? What is it that you're looking for? They just want to have like a list with a pipeline and you kind of go over with your process, or?
Yeah. So again, I don't think how big your pipeline is necessarily. Like if you have 500 people on a list and the other guy has 600 people on his list, that doesn't mean his better than you.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? I don't think, don't get hung up on that. Okay.
So what's the key? What's the key?
I think it's one, how you're going to build it and what info you're going to put in and how intentional are you, right? So like anybody can go and download contractors within 35 miles and have a 15,000 person list.
Correct.
That's going to just do nothing but waste your time.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So what's your process going to be in the hunt? What kind of research are you going to do?
Annabelle, you're going to have, you have a lot of information free at your disposal by being in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So I know that what David talks about a lot in his podcasts are based in Florida. So, with the free stuff, you can get X states. And I think you can even get carrier information, right? In Florida, I think there's...
Yes, for workers' comp, yeah. We can just Google, go to the state website, right, and then you can see who's the carrier, if they have an active policy, all the history that company has for workers' comp.
Right. Some states are really, really open in terms of the information you get. Like Alabama, for an example, on Insurance X states, you can't get anything more than an X state. You can't even you can only search by SIC codes, and it's just dependent on how much the state wants to give, but you're just in Florida.
Yeah.
So you should be able to get a bunch of really good information without having to pay for it, I think.
Yeah.
So you'll be
no, you're right.
You'll be good. I would also, because of the last mile stuff that you're looking at, I would use, depending on how much time you have, I would look on some like Indeed or some job boards and see who's hiring, because
that's a good one.
All freaking hiring like crazy right now.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily mean
you're right. And then you can see,
Yeah. So when you win, go ahead and give me a little nod.
Absolutely.
But yeah, take a look at that one for sure.
Thank you.
So during this challenge, this is how I've developed my pipeline. So one day, I'm not looking back wondering what happened, where's all my revenue?
All right, let me show you how I started building out my pipeline, my infrastructure for our agency revenue for this challenge too. And I did it for free of charge using my local library, Pioneer Library System. Updated my library card, got my number, and then I went to the library's website and went into the research and homework. I went to reference and then went to the resource reference solutions. And that's where I began my search.
Man, Brady Neal is an absolute animal when it comes to organizing his work product. Holy cow. I don't know if the guy can sell anything, but he can put together a business plan. That is for sure. I really like how he laid this out because he gave us a step-by-step instruction manual into his head. And it's exactly what we teach in Killing Commercial. This is a picture-perfect display of exactly what we're looking for when we bring a producer in at Florida Risk Partners, and it's almost dead on the money for part of what we teach to somebody when they come into Killing Commercial. Well done, Brady. This is a great job.
What's up, Protege Nation? It's Derek Hayden back with challenge number 2. Hold on. About forgot my most important piece of clothing here. There we go. That's much better. So this week, what I actually did, you're going to notice that I rearranged my business plan a little bit. I feel like I've got to do the best job I can of setting up my business plan for success moving into 2021. So let's take a look real quick at how I identify my prospects, how I have created my prospect list within those 3 target markets, and after adjusting, making some adjustments to make sure my business plan supports my goals.
Derek Hayden is an absolute beast, but I have to say, man, I really think he's going to run into some issues. His business plan and the identification of these prospects was definitely well thought out. But I mean, if you're looking at the screen I'm looking at, you can see very plainly he's going to have a hard time finding prospects to fill a pipeline. I happen to know that Derek also has a benefits practice, and he's probably relying on that being his ace in the hole to get him some critical mass. When we get to benefits, look what we got. We've got a spreadsheet full of stuff. So my theory was right. Derek's banking on his benefits book and what he can do to bring some of those people over in his vertical markets inside of the Protege competition. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm a little disappointed that he didn't have more in his spreadsheet in terms of pipeline in the vertical markets. I wish he would have actually thought through and expanded that geography as much as he needed to get some critical mass there. But that being said, I appreciate the street smarts that he's displayed by having this benefits spreadsheet here and able to roll everything over that he can into these verticals that he's building inside the Protege. Well done, Derek.
Hello everyone, this is Anabel Almazan, and following up from our last video, today it's all about how to target the industries that we uncovered from last week. So first of all, in order to create my pipeline development, I need to know the target industries that I'm looking for. What are the traits that are important for me? Number 1, the geography. They need to be in Florida, and they need to be 50 miles away from my office zip code, that is 33409. Second, revenues. They need to have revenues between $2 million to $10 million a year. And number 3, employees. They need to have at least 10 plus employees. So these are the characteristics that I'm looking for the accounts that I'm trying to target.
So this is important. What Annabelle did is exactly what I would advise anybody else that's a producer to do. You have to identify your ideal prospect and create a profile around them, knowing the industries that they're in, the geography that they're in, so that you're not wasting your time driving all over the state, making sure that the sales are high enough to generate the type of premiums you need to make enough money in these vertical markets, and the number of employees are all vital. But most importantly, it makes it very easy to create leads lists when you have this information defined on the front end, because it's as simple as hitting the radio buttons in the search functions inside of Reference USA or Data Axle or whatever service you're going to use. So she's doing a very good job of setting the table to build her pipeline the way that she should. So listen, Annabelle was dead on the money with the strategy. The problem is I didn't see results. And in order for her to ultimately be successful and honestly be the Protege, she's going to have to show me projections. I need to know the average revenue that you're seeing in these accounts. I need to know how you calculated that. Brady did an awesome job of breaking that down, and I really wish that I would have seen the same from Annabelle, because I know she's on the right track.
Hey there, it's Jason Webb. Week 2, challenge 2 of the Protege. And now week 2 is to creating an actual list of those prospects. And here we go. This list was generated by a vendor by the name of Data Axle. And on my list, it's been narrowed down because I wasn't accounting for the experience mod week 1. I totally forgot about that. And that's important. You know, I lead with work comp. I want to focus on those businesses that are having some issues preventing and managing their workplace injuries. And that is reflected by a debit mod, a experience mod above 1.0.
I'm beginning to see a theme here. Jason Webb, again, is going right out of my playbook. I don't know if these coaches are breaking the rules and giving everybody all of the secret sauce or not, but I'm starting to see a trend. That being said, this guy did exactly what I would want him to do. He walked us through what his prospects were, why they were his prospects, how he found them and researched them, and ultimately what led them to be in his pipeline. Specifically, what I like about what Jason has done here is he actually showed us the impact of using the experience mod in his pipeline by showing the numbers that he was willing to work with and where he thought he could deliver the most value. Jason's showing me that he's thinking ahead and it's already anticipating what the next challenge very well may be. If you compare it, Annabelle mentioned the mod, which tells me she was on the right track, but Jason took that one step further and he actually showed us the results of using the experience mod in his pipeline. That, my friends, is what it's going to take if somebody's going to be the protege.
Challenge 2 was definitely a challenge in itself, creating a pipeline from the target list that we already established in challenge number 1. Guys, you know, if you've been in sales, a prospect list is only as good as the data that's on it, and it is key to growing your book of business and bringing on some good clients. So what we're doing is we're getting some data from online, from various resources to come up with that target list. So I've got my spreadsheet here for one of the areas we're going after, and I've got several prospects on there right now that we're starting to get information on, as you can see. There's plenty of data on here, but there's also a lot more data that we have to do the work for here over the first quarter to get even more data so we can have a sniper approach and going after these clients.
I really appreciate that Joseph took the time to type up this little narrative so that I could get inside his head a little bit. Me having something like this makes it so much easier so I know what I'm getting into before I ever watch the videos. And what I see here is I'm getting into, honestly, Joseph has given me a little bit of a train wreck. In this document, he says he didn't realize that the revenue goal was $1,500,000. There are people who work for decades and don't have a book of business that big. And so Joseph ended up canvassing the entire state of New Mexico for his leads list, which quite frankly is not a bad strategy anyhow. He's giving himself the most opportunity possible. But then he started to dip into Texas a little bit, and I just don't think that that's necessary. I feel like that when Joseph understands that he really only needs about 1.5 million in premium or 150,000 in revenue for the year, and he'll be literally in the top 5% of producers nationwide, that he's going to take a big sigh of relief. Joseph took the time to build great pipelines. And I mean, you can imagine when you have an entire state at your fingertips, here you go. I mean, this thing goes on forever. While there may have been a misunderstanding about the actual amount of revenue that needed to be produced, in a serendipitous way, Joseph is actually set up for his entire career.
What's up, guys? Your favorite Protege contestant, Robert here. The task for this week was to build off of week 1's progress and take the 3 industries we are going to dive into and sort of actually find some real prospects that we're going to further dig into and go after.
So this is a little bit of a problem right out of the box. There are so many free resources out there, and I know that people know about them. Brady identified it. Jason Webb identified it. Annabelle identified it. And this is an area that could really be detrimental for Robert if he doesn't get the ability to build his leads list using these resources. I understand that in the real agency world that agencies only buy user seats for a certain number of people. But in this instance, he really should have gone to these people ahead of time to see if he could get access to the information he needed before he ended up recording his challenge. I'm concerned for Robert that he's not going to have the pipeline that the other agents have by simply doing Google searches and LinkedIn. I appreciate that Robert took the time to dig into some of the larger opportunities, but honestly, I feel like that he needs to be more realistic coming out of the box and get some quick hits. This is exactly what I was afraid of based on the fact he didn't use Reference USA or Data Axle or any of those sources to identify a leads list. And I don't see any evidence that there's meat on the bone there. His goal is realistic. His vertical markets are on point, but I got to see more. Just like with Annabelle, they left me wanting more and it just wasn't there.
What's going on, Protege World? Challenge number 2 here. Connecticut has a directory list where you can see businesses registered and get some info through that. The library research references have been great. Data Axle has been a big one that I've been using. And then I broke it down and I got a handful of fine-tuned sheets going. So I kind of construction specialty trade was very large and broke that down more into different categories. We'll walk through here, just kind of running lists I was trying to keep to populate, but I think it's easier to just run through some of what we put together here.
People, are you seeing a pattern here? Again, look at all of the resources that this guy's using to research to make sure he's purifying the leads before he puts them into the pipeline. Ryan did a great job of identifying the markets he needed to use in the first week, and he is doubling down and showing us exactly why he should be in the finals of this show. Ryan Keating is an animal. He has taken this thing to a level that we never thought was going to be taken to, and I couldn't be prouder of the work product that he's put together. I'm not going to spend any more time critiquing it because, quite honestly, I can't find anything wrong with it. All I need this man to do is execute on the plan that he's laid out. The level of research and the depth at which he went to is insane. And if you're a producer out there and you're not doing this, this is the guy that's taking your accounts. Pay attention, because as the challenges go on, I have a feeling that the cream is going to rise to the top, and that cream is Ryan Keating.
All right, this is Tim Gould. This is the challenge number 2 for the Protege. This second challenge, I'm starting to put a list together, right? We're building out that prospect list and drilling down from the types of the prospects that we identified in the first challenge. The goals that we had were 150,000 of revenue is what we want to generate in the next 12 months.
Tim, I'm going to give you extra points. You created a cartoon of yourself. I don't know how well that would play in the real world, in the middle market, but for entertainment value's sake, good job. Over here, he also went through and he gave us the Excel spreadsheets that are showing what we have in terms of prospects. And again, here we go. He's got lists, but the difference between Tim and what some of the others have done is Tim left out the experience mod or an X date. So my question is, you've got this list, Tim. How are you going to market to it? What are you going to use as your starting point? If you don't have an X date or something to work with, it's going to be very difficult for you to use drip marketing campaigns or know the appropriate time to contact these people and strike when the iron's hot as you're getting ready for renewal. And then the other thing is, you got to give me a date, brother. You got to show me how you're going to get after these people. And when you build your pipeline, just having the list isn't good enough. I appreciate the executive summary. I appreciate your pipelines, but you got to tweak it just a little bit. And if you can do that, it's going to put you on track to be right with the front runners in this competition.
Hello guys, this is Tyrone Shelton, your protege, number 1 in your hearts. Doing challenge 2, today we're going to be talking about the pipeline. Here are the leads that I've downloaded. And when I looked at the getting the assortment of leads, I kind of went based on the distance to my office, because I'm going to do a basically like a guerrilla tactic. The ones that are close definitely would be open to maybe dropping by. But then the ones that are not so close, we would be doing the telemarketing and mail outs and email and electronic and follow-ups and drip campaigns.
like what he's done. He's obvious. I mean, this is straight out of Reference USA, Data Axle, whatever we're going to call it today. And he's given us a pipeline. But here's the thing. This is the same thing that I've talked about. What's going to separate the people who are ultimately successful, the way this challenge in this whole competition is going to play out, is whether or not they're able to produce. They haven't figured that out yet, right? I haven't told them. So I know this because I know what I have planned, but you're going to see as these challenges unfold that the people who took the time to get expiration dates and use sales volume or experience mods or whatever else, so they had a starting point, those people are ultimately going to be the ones who are the most successful because they have a way to market, which is going to get them an appointment, which is going to get them closed deals. If you're building a pipeline and you don't have a place where you can start your marketing process, where do you plan on starting it? I mean, are you just going to guess? You're going to throw it against the wall to see what sticks? That is one of the biggest separators that I've seen in this week's challenge, and we're going to talk more about that when I recap.
And this is how I'm getting new business. I haven't gotten a new client on the books yet, but I am in communication with a couple companies already. And what I did was I basically went into Google. I researched health tech companies in the United States of America. I populated my CRM, which is Pipedrive, with said companies of ones in excess. I did 20 million. I obtained C-suite names, the CEOs, the COOs, the chief technology officers, things of that nature. And then I populated my Pipedrive with that information.
After the first two challenges, Justin Sloan may very well have cemented himself as the front runner in this competition. The level of detail that he has gone into to dive deep into his vertical market is phenomenal. I would, however, be remiss if I didn't address the fact he didn't follow the rules. That said, it's a frustration as the person putting the show together that the footage wasn't broken down the way that I wanted to. But as an agency principal and someone who's experienced some level of success in the middle market, I absolutely respect the fact that Justin bucked the system and then backed it up with his work product. I think one of the biggest issues that we face in the agency world today is there's a lack of collaboration between principals, producers, and other team members. People who sit in my chair as the agency principal think we are the know-it-all, and we've been there, done that, and our way is the only way. My challenge to all of you watching this is that as we move on and let the next generation come behind us, we need to adopt collaboration and abandon controlling our team. If we can do that and we can accept the fact that sometimes somebody has a better idea or sometimes somebody knows a better way that will work better for them, we'll ultimately all be more successful. I don't know if Justin's going to win this competition or not, but I can tell you that right now, his work product is the best of any of the contestants. Being a producer in middle market commercial insurance is not easy. It's stressful, it's time consuming, and honestly, just overall laborious. I'm glad I didn't have to be the bad guy this week and pick somebody because everybody's work has been so good to this point. But I have to tell you that the first person eliminated from the Protege is Jason Scrimscher. As a father of young kids and having a full-time job, doing this show probably was a little bit more than what he thought he was getting into. And truthfully, I'm a guy that tends to oversimplify things and told them it would only be an hour a week. The fact is it does take more time, but my intent was for these people to be using these principles that we're teaching them in their real job every single day. So maybe it's a little bit like work, maybe it's not. But outside of work, it shouldn't have been a whole bunch of time to do the creative. I hope you see the pattern that's starting to form here because these people will be successful going forward using the principles they learned in each one of these shows. This week's challenge was actually very subjective. It allowed me to give general strokes of what I wanted people to do and then see how they interpreted that information and put it into action. If you're like me and you were watching the work product that came out, you saw a definite division between who we might think are the front runners now and those people that may be in a little bit of trouble going into next week. The people that are going to be successful are those that are going to take it to the extra step. Listen, people, my book is The Extra 2 Minutes. It's not called Do What I Need to Do to Get By and Call it a Day. At the end of the day, I was really impressed with those who were able to give us expiration dates, maybe even identify current carriers, and for those that at least talked about including the experience modification factor in their research. And I wouldn't have advocated that they pull it because it would be really expensive to do that. But the people who actually gave us their thought process, boiled it down to an executive summary, and then drilled deep when they did their presentation are the people that are ultimately going to be the front runners in this competition. I'm not at a point where I'm ready to pick my favorite yet, but I bet you are, and I hope it's who you want it to be when this thing ends. But right now, the number one thing that you can do in this competition is follow along, learn from the challenges that we're presenting, and then execute them in your daily life for your business. And I can assure you, it's going to make a difference in your production and ultimately your income, with my hope being it changes your family tree for generations to come. Thanks so much for watching, and we couldn't be more excited about how this is shaping up. But don't think you know what I've got going on up here yet, because I'm always ready to throw you a curveball. On next week's episode of The Protege. Your Protege Challenge number 3 is...
And I'm trying, see, that's where I'm confused if I'm going the wrong way or not.
Is what you don't say.
I've never targeted these areas before.
Insurance is a funny thing, and a lot of people take it personally when it's not really a personal thing.
I went in another direction.
Hey, this is a special message for Mr. Ricky Hayter, for Mr. Joshua Lipstone, for Mr. Ryan Hanley, and Mr. Jason Cass. Fellas, I got some news for you. On behalf of Bradley Flowers and I for Team Alabama Georgia Line, you are about to get rolled. That's money.